Morning. Well, back on the road. I think, the biggest thing is, our guys knowing that San Jose State is, they're really dangerous. And, Coach Miles, I know it's been hard on him in terms of just the number of bodies they don't have very many bodies. You watch their game against Utah State, when I think Trey Anderson went out with a concussion. They had 7 guys on they had 2 guys on the bench, 7 total players. Same goes with the Boise game. The other night, Sean Robinson and Trey Smith don't play. And so, he's just, I've had a lot of injuries. One of those deals when you're in year one, and he's done a really good job. And, you go back and you look at the San Diego State game from the other night. That was a 7-point game with 2 minutes left. The game at Utah State was a 2 or 3 point game at halftime. Our game, in that second half, it was a 1 possession game. And so, they definitely have the talent. They have the ability to shoot it. You just, you gotta do a really good being locked in and focused and doing some of the things that we need to do to come away with the win. And our guys, we know our margin for error, and for everybody in this league, the margin for error is really slim. And so you can't, you're not walking in there because, hey, San Jose hasn't won a game in league yet. Knowing full well that, we're capable of beating anybody and we're capable of losing anybody. And so just the mindset, I thought we had a really good practice yesterday. We'll have one more here this morning before we head out. Hopefully getting some vitamin D in our system from the sun will, help us out a little bit, but just looking forward to another opportunity. And that's all it is right now. Is this the next game is the most important one, and San Jose State has our attention just as much as anybody else would have our attention right now. And there is no looking forward or looking past anybody, because I said at the end of the day, we're not good enough to do that. And maybe some teams can show up and just beat teams, but that's not us. It's a matter of just keep pushing forward with the process, and keep finding ways to get better. That's the thing this week after the last game, and we really needed after that Utah State game. That stretch of games that we had 5 and 12 days, and we really hadn't had one day off where we could just give the guys just, hey, stay away. Don't come in unless you need to do something in terms of recovery wise, but we haven't had a break in the schedule like that. And it's really just been come back from travel, and then, maybe we'll watch a little bit of film or do this, that, or another, and then we'll practice the next day and we'll play. And so for the guys to get a little bit of a break here, since we haven't had one, and it's I think hopefully it'll help us out, because we were, you go back and watch that Utah State game. That was a gritty, tough performance, because we didn't have a lot of juice in the tank. Luckily, we had enough juice, and luckily, having the crowd that we did, and our guys just being tough and resilient together, just found a way to win that game. And hopefully now we can kind of get some of our juice and energy back. And because now it's with San Jose State and New Mexico, there's a tough of guard of anybody in our league. With Mashburn and House, the quickness of those 2 guys. We saw that, the last time we played them. They're a tough matchup. And so 2 big games on the road. Looking forward to getting on the road and seeing what happens.
Jeff, how is Maldo doing, and will he be available in San Jose?
Yeah, no, Maldo's good. Tweaked his ankle a little bit there at the start of the game against Utah State. He's used to battling through injuries, and he'll be good to go on Saturday. Geez, no other questions?
Jeff, in your opinion, do you think Xavier Ducel's kind of getting his feet under him and starting to get his stroke back a little bit?
Yeah, the thing about X is, he's just going to continue to do what he does. He puts in the work behind the scenes. That hamstring injury, a lot like a high ankle sprain that Kenny had. They're just, they're funky, and you just don't know in terms of kind of how it's going to react or respond. And I think initially, he didn't want to try to push too hard, thinking that it might, pull again. but I think he's pretty confident now. And it's just, and I challenged him after, before the Fresno game. I mean, last year, the last month of the season, this time of the year, I mean, you could make a case he was the best freshman in our league in terms of how he was playing. Now, different circumstances, different season, and and he can't control injuries, but we need him to be as good as he can possibly be as we make this stretch run down the stretch.
Jeff, I noticed the other night that Kenny was not dressed out and was kind of coaching guys up. Is he thinking about seeking a medical hardship, or what's his status right now?
Well, I mean, his deal, it's kind of week by week, but knowing that kind of where he's at right now in terms of games played, that, he would qualify for a medical red shirt. Now, the one caveat, the one issue based off the NCAA is if you play a game in that second semester. But I mean, that was a deal where he was trying to come back and play. But, when you have, the complications that he's had, having COVID, mono, and strep at the same time. I mean, it wasn't like he wanted to go into that game and play 2 minutes. I mean, so I'm sure from a waiver standpoint, we'll be able to get that through. But as of right now, I mean, he's trying to put forth. I mean, we're just taking it week by week, and because he wants to be a part of this, and I know it's been really frustrating for him. I mean, he's at the end of last year, I mean, he was playing really well and hurts his knee, and then turn around and gets the high ankle sprain, and then he gets this, and just really frustrating for him. And if we're not going to just throw him out there and waste a season. So as of right now, if it to this next week, if he feels like, hey, I'm good to go, and he wants, the ball's in his court, whether he wants to do it or not. So I'm not going to say, hey, listen, you jump out there and now you play a couple other games and then you don't feel well, and now you wasted a season. So we're not going to do that. So we'll take it one day and 1 week at a time. But as of right now, probably the plan will be to try to seek out that medical red shirt.
Jeff, you guys are up to 92 in the country and adjusted defensive efficiency this year. In your opinion, what would you say is the biggest key to the turnaround on that end of the floor?
Well, the fact that we can actually practice and play 5-on-5 every day. I mean, that wasn't the case when you had COVID and when you had the youngest team, if one of the 5 youngest teams in the country last year, and you couldn't practice and you couldn't do anything. It makes it hard to build the habits to be a good defensive team. And so having been able to play practice normal, to play 5-on-5. And then when you look at our lineup, when you move Maldo to the point, Maldo's an elite defender. He's as good as any defender in the country, not just in terms of on the ball, but off the ball. And then Graham is in the same boat. I mean, Graham is elite defensively in terms of, he's not a shot blocker, but in terms of positioning, ball screen D, guarding the ball. When you have that, those 2 guys at the point in the center spot in this day and age with, ball screens and, and teams trying to create, mismatches. I mean, Graham can guard, 1 through 4 on the perimeter. And so if we need to switch, we need to be in coverage. And then, on the wings, when you have the length and size that we do, where Drake at 6'5" and really athletic, Wenzel 6'6", 6'7", X at 6'4", J.O. at 6'9", Thompson at 6'10". I mean, we just got a lot of size. And then we made a few adjustments in terms of trying to minimize paint touches, change some of the things that we do in terms of our 3-point defense. But, we got a lot of smart guys. And when you have smart guys, and ultimately the measure of a good defensive team is your discipline and your discipline, your effort. And over the course of, the 65 to 70 defensive possessions, and we just don't make a lot of mistakes, from a positioning standpoint, from a scouting standpoint. And that's what allows you to be a good defensive team.
Jeff, it seems like Graham has been grabbing the rebound more lately and bringing the ball up the floor himself. Is that something that's been by design, or something that you told him he should do more, or anything like that?
It's something that we've worked on since the summertime. I mean, he's really, I mean, he's like a guard. I mean, he handles the ball like a guard. He passes like a guard. And I know this, I mean, when the other team, I mean, they don't prepare much or practice much against a 5-man bringing the ball up the floor in transition. And so that makes it really, really hard to guard. And And the beauty of Graham is that a lot of times, when you have a post player, they don't have the ability to handle the ball like that. And so it makes it hard in late game situations a lot of times to get the ball to a traditional post player, just because it's easier to either front the post or, you can take that away a lot easier as opposed to a guy who, I can just say, all right, Graham, you're the point, bring the ball up the floor, let's clear the side out and go to work. You can put him in a lot of different situations, and as he continues to grow and evolve, I mean, we'll just keep putting him in more and more of those situations where, he's kind of the point center.
Jeff, on the subject of Graham, do you work with him, or how does he kind of slow his game down a little bit so he doesn't get the fouls as quickly as he seems to? And a lot of times it seems like they're maybe a little ticky-tack, but they're still calling him.
Yeah, it's a process. I mean, he knows probably, especially the second one. And, we talked yesterday. I mean, he knew that, you just can't even put yourself in that position to get that. Now, he's hard for the officials to officiate, because he puts so much pressure on you with his size and his strength and then his skill level. And that's the unfortunate part sometimes by, being just bigger and stronger than everybody else. I mean, in high school, guys, the only way they can guard you is flop around. Officials aren't used to guarding guys like that or officiating guys like that. And then it goes the same in college. And so, but he knows that he has to continue to adjust and know that, there's certain ones that, you got to really try to stay away from, especially the second one he's got. And he's done that a few times where he just, the other team's just trying to bait him. As you watch the other team's bench, I mean, that the only way they can guard him is by just trying to get underneath his skin. And, Doc Rivers once said, I mean, you can play with emotion, but you can't play emotional. And that's the thing that I really talked to him about, is that, what makes him special and makes him great is he plays with that emotion. But then too, you have to learn how to channel that and not be emotional, because then that's when, you can have one foul can't lead to another foul, and, one mistake can't lead to another mistake. And so, when you're 19 years old like him, I mean, those are some of the things that you just gotta, continue to work on, and he knows. And the thing about him is he can always reflect and look in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I screwed that one up and can't let that happen again. So it's a process, but he's growing in that area, and it's what makes him good.
Jeff, I assume I know the answer to this, but what would it mean to you in this program to crack the top 25?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think about it. I'm more focused on, what we need to do to beat San Jose State. But I mean, I think in terms of just for the, just for this, for the people in the program, people around the program, the people that support the program, for the state of Wyoming, I mean, it does show that you're doing some of the right things, but ultimately too, you need to keep doing the right things. And it's hard, for our guys, and I think we've done a good job because we've had some success along the way this year and have gotten some attention. But you have to really got to really control the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there now. And when you're 20-3 and there's not very many teams in the country that have 3 or fewer losses, and kind of coming out of nowhere. I mean, everybody loves the Cinderella story, but for us, it's just a matter of, can we just continue to find a way to keep getting better at a time of year when a lot of teams don't get better. And when you're 20-3, it's a lot easier to show up to practice and be focused and have the energy that's necessary to continue to win games. But can't say it wouldn't be nice. I mean, it's always nice to see that. It validates some things, but that also can go away very, very quickly, as we all know.
Jeff, when you had to step out of the arena the other night and watch the TV feed or whatever, however you consumed it, does that give you a different perspective on the team, or was it just torture? Like, what was that like?
Well, unfortunately, I've been in that situation before, and so it's a pretty helpless feeling. and thankfully I went back into the control room because Seaman couldn't find me a TV in the 7220 room or in my office. And so I just went back and hung out in the control room with Dennis and his crew and got to see how they go from one camera to the other. They do a great job in there. And then Seaman finally found a way to get the stream into the 7220 room. And so I was able to sit back there and watch, and had one of the people, one of the people that helped work the games. And she comes back in there, and I'm not sure if she even realized I was the coach or not. She just wanted to get off her feet a little bit. And she asked if she could hang out in there. And I'm like, hey, why not? And so hung out in the 7220 room with her and just watched the game, and knew that I had it in good hands. I mean, I have a great coaching staff. Coach DeWeese has been with me a long time. Coach Wicks has been a head coach. Coach V has been a head coach. And so those guys, I said, they did a really good job of managing the game in my absence.
Jeff, what's it been like coaching in the Mountain West this year, just with it being as competitive as it's been in recent memory, especially at the top?
I mean, I'm aging in dog years. I mean, the number of one possession games that we've been in, I sit there and I watch Coach Few and Gonzaga sometimes, or Tommy Lloyd at Arizona, who's a good friend of mine. And I was just like, man, it'd be nice one time just to be like, be up 15, or in the case of Arizona or Gonzaga, up 30 with about 5 minutes left. And you can kind of sit back and relax. But that's not the reality of us. That's not the reality of our league. I mean, our league is just, top to bottom, it's been as good as it's been probably since I would say 2013 when I was at Boise and it was a 5-bid league. It's just every game. It's just back and forth, but it also too. It prepares you, and it prepares you if you have the opportunity to be in the NCAA tournament where you're ready to possibly win a game, and that's the next step for the Mountain West in the NCAA tournament is to win some games. We're too good of a league not to have won some games, over the course of the last how many years. And so hopefully, us all beating up on each other will kind of prepare us for that opportunity if